Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, fourth and trollers, welcome back to the most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. It's Fourth and Troll, baby. I'm Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And we are here for another great Friday episode, a week 3 preview, along with a little bit of week 3 recap from Thursday night. It's going to be a fantastic show. I am thrilled for it. Wes, how's it going?
I'm doing great. I am doing better than the Steelers. They don't look that great.
Suck.
I am concerned for Mike Tomlin's streak of 15 consecutive seasons without a losing record with how things are. Noah, how are you?
Yeah, no, I think I echo everything you just said. I think if Mike Tomlin wants to continue this streak that he's had, there may be some changes coming and some rookies getting some play time, even though Mike Tomlin is very loyal. He's a very loyal coach. I know he has said Mitch is the starter for the year. It's going to be interesting, though, to see, because Mitch did not look good moving the football except for maybe like 2 drives on Thursday night. So it is going to be very, very interesting. Like I said, we've got a great show for you today. We're going to go over last night's Thursday night football game, Steelers at the Browns. We're going to talk to you about a few players you may be on the fence about starting and give you some advice on them. And then we're back with studs and duds for week 3. But first things first, let's talk about the need to know news going into Sunday. Wes, what is going on?
Well, let's start out with a current streak right now with Fourth and Troll Fantasies that we have mentioned when a coach says they want to get a player involved. They have. So here we go again. We're going to let you know that Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell said they have to do a better job getting Dalvin Cook more involved. They're playing the Detroit Lions on Sunday. And for the past few coaches that have said, we got to do this, they do it. So Dalvin Cook owners who took him in the first round, hang tight. Seems like week 3 is going to be an upward trend for his fantasy. Moving on to the Cowboys, wide receiver Michael Gallup is expected to play on Monday night after a full practice yesterday. But he will be on a snap count. That's what Mike McCarthy has said. He's going to put him on a snap count of 70 plays, which is kind of redundant because they have only averaged 62 snaps a game. So don't read into that.
He's playing both ways. He's playing both ways, apparently.
Right, he's playing on defense too, punt returns. So don't read into that snap count. Don't worry about it. He's going to play a full 60 minutes. Now time for some injury roundup. Let's get an idea of who's going to play, who's probably not going to play, starting with finally J.K. Dobbins of the Ravens. He logged a full practice and is making very good progress to play on Sunday. In L.A. for the Chargers, Keenan Allen has had limited practices, and he believes that he's making good progress to play on Sunday. I will throw in that Austin Eckler on his own streaming platform mentioned that Allen doesn't look as good as Justin Herbert does for playing. So that one's still definitely up in the air. Buffalo Bills wide receiver Gabe Davis has been dealing with an ankle injury since the season opener against the Rams, but he told the press himself that he is 100% going to play against the Dolphins. And if he's out there with Stephon Diggs, wow. We'll see what happens there.
We talk about J.K. Dobbins. We know how well things go whenever players decide they're going to be the ones to tell the press they're playing versus letting the medical staff and the coaching say that. But it will be a showdown on Sunday, especially if he's out there.
If things go accordingly, there may be a lot of points for that game, especially for the Bills, no matter who they play. In Tampa Bay, Julio Jones and Chris Godwin miss practices this week, which will be really hard for Tom Brady owners, with Mike Evans already suspended if either one of them, maybe even both of them, aren't even going to play. So I don't know how the passing game is going to look there in Tampa Bay. In Denver, Jerry Jeudy did not practice on Thursday, and he hasn't practiced much at all this week. So it looks unlikely that he will play due to his injury, his rib injury specifically. Most importantly, Christian McCaffrey, there he is, popping up on the injury report on Friday for some lingering ankle stiffness. But he let the media know after that injury report. They're like, what's going on? He says, yeah, I think at this point, if I went to go take a leak during practice, I'd end up on the injury report. So
yeah,
I don't think we need to worry about
so far. Christian McCaffrey owners, we're in the clear. Okay, we're good. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I think it's funny that even he's like, okay,
he's like, okay, guys, what are we doing here? Yeah.
Last but not least, wide receiver Alan Lazard for Green Bay Packers did not practice on Thursday. But today's injury report, same as last week, today's injury report should indicate if he will suit up this week. Be on the lookout for that. If you plan to start what should be the number one option in Green Bay, that is it for the news heading into week 3 after Thursday night. And let's talk about Thursday night's game. Let's look at our must starts, risky starts, and don't starts. How did we do, Noah? Did we do okay in this bad matchup between the Steelers and Browns?
Yeah, we did all right. I mean, so anyone who watched the game, looking at the first half, it looked like it was going to be a bit of a shootout, and then things kind of just really got out of the hands of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It really kind of fell away from there. They were defeated fairly soundly thanks to a last play defensive touchdown. But that defensive touchdown, Wes, we look at our don't starts.
Dude.
You were golden. You were golden
right
on the don't starts. You were there. I mean,
let it be known.
Let's say this. You were right. It's a fluky last play, pitching the ball around, fumble recovery for a touchdown that the Browns recovered and scored on, that gave them 6 more points to get them the 10-point mark in fantasy football. Really saved the game. I quite literally, we were going over our breakdown for this show, and we were just jotting down all the scoring. And for anyone who doesn't know, I have a little puppy. Her name is Midge. Hi Midge. We were taking her out. When it's kind of what we do. We take her out, and we after, as dog owners do, by the way, just in case anyone was missing on that, you take your dog out, by the way. But
usually fantasy and dog advice.
Yeah. Just so you know. But usually after Thursday Night Football, I'll go ahead and my wife and I will take the dog out to do her business, and then we'll come back up and we'll go over the breakdown a little bit from Thursday night. But I'm going over the breakdown, and I'm just jotting down points and revisiting our must starts, risky starts, don't starts, and I'm like, oh yeah. Man, Wes is right about the Browns defense. They only got 4. What? And I look, because I was starting them in 2 leagues, and I see this 10 points, and I was like, what's happened? What happened here? And I look at the box score and see the scoring plays, and I see, oh my gosh, a fumble recovery for a touch. And so it was just,
you took the chance.
Saved. Yeah, you got saved, and I got saved, and
zeros on the clock
by that play with zeros on the clock there. But in regards to that as well, I told you guys not to start Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
And, I hope you didn't listen to me and you believe, because man, it's been 2 weeks in a row now where he's really gotten loose there. And maybe it's just to who they played in week 1. They played the Panthers in week 1. Maybe the Panthers defense is better than we think. I don't know, but yeah, I think, as you mentioned on our episode earlier this week, Wes, Jacoby Brissett said to Amari Cooper, "Hey, sorry, I didn't see how open you were a lot of this time." Yeah. And so
it would have been even more. There was one really long pass that just bounced off his face mask. But
Jacoby Brissett fired that one. By the way, that was on a frozen rope straight to his helmet.
It's an incredible throw,
and it was just flung it in there. And obviously, I don't think Amari Cooper was expecting that one at the time. But if he had that, you're looking at probably a 26-point game. But still, Amari Cooper 23.1 fantasy points. I think at this point now, you probably have, if you have him, you probably got to keep him at least as your flex play. Going forward, we've seen 2 weeks of it now. He's getting double-digit targets. He's in a good situation. There's not much competition for him. Besides another really bright spot on this offense in the passing game, which was David Njoku. Kind of out of nowhere.
I'm not just surprised. I'm impressed because it wasn't like I remember last season. Hunter Henry had 2 catches for 2 touchdowns, kind of similar to how OJ Howard had at the start of this season.
Yeah.
Last year there was a game Hunter Henry. He had like 2 touchdowns off of. I said 2 catches, maybe in 4, but it was like just one of those fluke games where it was like, whoa, that's kind of cool, good for fantasy. But like,
no, dude had
9 10 targets.
Yeah,
9 catches, 89 yards.
Yeah, 24 fantasy points.
I am impressed as well because there was a couple of bad reports heading into preseason that he was dropping passes in practice, and I thought, oh, okay, I'm just going to check him off my tight end list, cross him off. I'm not really going to try to pursue him because I had so many others in mind. But I mean, we've been talking about getting a good tight end if he is still available.
Yeah, he's going to be might as well top priority if he's
rostered in 33% of leagues rostered him. So
yeah,
I'm sure he's going to be waiver wire 1 for a lot of people.
We might be talking about him a little later next week. Really impressive. He was on my late round sleeper list when the $280 million quarterback was supposed to be playing football for them because I know Deshaun Watson loves targeting tight ends. That sounded wrong. I didn't mean it like that. So let's just brush past that.
Moving on.
I apologize. We're going to move past that here. Anyways, but he loves throwing 2 tight ends. He made not Brevin Jordan, but what was his name in Darren Fells? Darren Fells in Houston was like fantasy relevant while Deshaun Watson was the quarterback there. But yeah, I mean, it's good to see Njoku 10 targets. That is very, very, very good for him. Another guy who got targets a lot more than he had gotten so far this season was George Pickens, who had, my goodness, one of the best catches of the season so far, and probably will be on a list of best catches of the season at the end of the year.
That's the catch to beat right now for 2022.
To me, when they were replaying Odell Beckham's catch and George Pickens' catch, to me, George Pickens' catch was actually more impressive than Odell Beckham's.
I would say it was like more acrobatic.
Yeah, he was. Well, yeah. That's a good way of putting it. George Pickens was nearly horizontal to the ground, or perpendicular. Wait, hang on. Parallel. There it is. That's what I'm looking for.
I think I'm killing it with
the words right now, by the way. But he was parallel with the ground, and gosh, like over his head, tracking that ball and catching that was unbelievable.
Now, I have a question based on this because there was a lot of hype from him in the preseason. And speaking of OBJ, here's the difference. I'm going to play devil's advocate against George Pickens so that you can make a case of why we should consider him in the future. OBJ, 2014, that catch, he was the wide receiver 1 on that team. Like, he is the guy that was he was the best receiver on that team already as a rookie. That was why they drafted him. George Pickens is still a wide receiver 3 at best in the Steelers offense. So how likely, I know Mitch said he wanted to get him the ball more, but I mean, how likely are we really going to see George Pickens bloom from this after a fantastic catch?
I don't think it'll be massive. I do think he's worth adding if he is available in your leagues. If he's available, I think he's worth the add. I think there's probably a guy that you might be holding on to, whether it's Marquez Valdez-Scantling or I don't know, like someone along those lines who just probably isn't really doing it for you. I think he's probably worth adding there. He's still, while he is the 3rd guy, he was 2nd on the team in targets tonight with 7, just behind Deontay Johnson there. I think he's still worth adding. I'm not expecting a massive like blow up or anything like that, but if you're weak at wide receiver or you're needing some decent depth there, and like a guy like Sky Moore or MVS or Christian Watson or Alan Lazard hasn't necessarily panned out or something along those lines, I think he's probably a name worth keeping in mind when it comes to waivers this week and looking at who can fill that spot for you.
I think that's fair. And I don't ever want to bank on anyone getting injured, but I think especially if either Deontay or Chase were to miss time. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah. Let's look at our risky starts. They both did pretty well, especially yours, Noah.
Yeah. I mean, I said it on Tuesday's show, this risky start was really just hey, I want to temper expectations because Nick Chubb just had a massive week. And I want to make sure we're all on the same page here about where the NFL's leading rusher is probably going to end up in this game. And he beat projection, 23 carries, 113 yards and a touchdown that was pretty much gifted to him because it probably should have been Kareem Hunt's.
That was Kareem's. Yeah. Sorry, Kareem Hunt owners.
Yeah. But 17.3 fantasy points is a very, very solid, week for a guy that you probably drafted as your RB2. I don't have any issue looking at that and going, I'm happy with that. Another guy on the other side of the football here, or not on the football, other side of the field, Wes, was your risky start, Najee Harris. Dude. Still not bad, but he lost the 2 points on the last play.
Sure.
And so he landed at 13.1, should have been 15.1. That ball could have been fumbled out of anyone's hands. So a bad break for Najee Harris owners, but Are we hitting the panic button a little bit on Najee Harris here?
I think we have to.
Yeah.
I mean, just to be frank, Harris, a good running back right now. Nice. Do you like that? Look at that, dude.
Good one.
To be Franco Harris about this, he is behind what's got to be at the end of this season the worst offensive line.
It's the
Bengals are right there, but holy cow. I don't know how Najee Harris can be of any fantasy relevance with how this season has started. And this is one of these first round backs has to do well at some point.
Somebody
has to. I mean, it's
my goodness. There's got to be consistency in that first round of backs there. I mean, as a McCaffrey owner, it's been nice to get consistency, but the consistency of 15 and 16 points over the last 2 weeks is not what I drafted for. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on with these first round running backs, man, but it's definitely something's got to give because it's not been good. And it's been fantastic for the first round wide receivers.
Yes.
Absolutely. I saw someone after week 1. So it was after week 1, but it was Mike Clay from ESPN. And he tweeted out and said, "Hey, fantasy community, congrats on getting all these wide receivers right, because these guys are all still incredible. These guys are all still beasts, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, all those guys. The first round, we nailed it. It was crushed out of the park. But these running backs, I don't know what to make of it, man. I mean, Najee's barely getting 3 yards a carry here behind this line. It doesn't look great. 3 targets, 3 catches, 5 yards on 3 catches. It's just what are we where are we
terrible.
going?
You know what concerns me the most is you can't even get another first round back. You can't even swap with Najee because it's who has more confidence in Derrick Henry than they do in Najee Harris.
Right. Yeah. I
mean,
it's going to be very interesting to watch things play out as, if some of these first round guys string together their usual, 20 plus point weeks, how they should be, and get 2 or 3 of those in a row. I'll be really interested to see how many of those guys get traded and sell high on those guys because, they're just worried about the consistency, but
we're into week 3. I think it's so early. It's so early to say this, but it already feels like I've missed the mark on Najee Harris, possibly even making top 10 at this rate. I don't even know.
We'll have to see how things play out. It is concerning, though. A couple other guys here that we insisted you guys start. Wes, Deontay Johnson, 16.4 fantasy points.
I was so surprised. I was so surprised to see those stats because he seemed quiet because the Steelers just seemed unproductive on offense. But then that was just the point. He's still 3 straight weeks of double-digit targets and 8 catches, 84 yards, full PPR. There you go. 16 and a half points. Okay.
Crazy seeing that kind of stuff happen because it's definitely been a situation where I haven't been certainly, I called him a bust. I thought he was going to be the biggest bust of the year. And he's gotten those double-digit targets every single week. And
which was your point.
Yeah.
I thought Big Ben was only giving it to one guy, and it was Johnson and Najee.
Yeah, he's and so I mean, I don't think this is exactly what you're hoping for from Deontay Johnson when you drafted him. I went back and looked at it. This is the first week he's overperformed his projection. It's only been by a couple points the last 2 weeks that he's missed that mark. But this is the first week he's overperformed and achieved that projection that he had. So definitely happy with that if you're a Deontay Johnson owner. Not super happy with the usage of my boy Patty Fry. What's happening? What's going on, Pittsburgh?
Al Michaels said it perfectly. 57 minutes, nothing. And then the final 3 minutes, Pat Freiermuth is taken off.
Yeah, it's like, what's going on here? Like, what are we doing? So Pat Freiermuth garbage timed his way to 6.1 fantasy points, which in the league we play in of tight ends and stuff like that, you never know. He could finish top 10 with that amount of fantasy points this week. So, awesome. I mean, but we saw when they threw him the ball, they moved the ball down the field. And so I think Mike Tomlin is going to emphasize to whoever is playing quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers next week, hey, he needs to be a point of emphasis here. We need to make sure he keeps on getting, we look his way because we can move the ball when we put the ball in Patty Fry's hands. That is our Thursday Night Football recap. Better games to come for Thursday night, I would say.
Absolutely.
I would say for sure next week should be a fun one. Dolphins at Cincinnati for spirited college rivalry between Joe Burrow and Tua there. So should be a fun one next Thursday night. Should be a great Friday show that we have for you next week as well, recapping that game. Let's jump through, Wes. We're going to do a little bit of stardom situm. How does that sound?
Sounds pretty great, honestly.
Sounds good. Why don't I start then with you, Wes? Actually, I'm going to start with me. Actually, because I feel like it.
Stick to the script.
I'm going to start with me. Yeah, my stardom for this week, we're actually going to give you 2 guys each. We're going to give you 2 starts and 2 sits there for this week. Guys that we feel good about, guys that we think, if there's uncertainty because of prior performance, because it's not a big name, because whatever, they need to be in your lineup. And also sits being, hey, these guys have been okay, or these guys are usually good, but you might need to rethink this one again. My first start of the week, or my first stardom for this week, is going to be running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Leonard Fournette, against the Green Bay Packers. I have Leonard Fournette in a league. I've been a little disappointed just because we haven't found the end zone yet. Fournette even apologized to fantasy owners this week for not finding the end zone and assured us that the time is coming. And I think he said that because he thinks, oh, no one on my offense this week can play football, so it's going to be me. And I think it will be. I really do. Fournette has been a bright spot on this offense this year. Week 1, he was close to the 20-point fantasy mark there, just with rushing and a little bit of receiving there. But he's had over 23 touches in each of the first 2 weeks, and he's getting the volume that we love to see from a running back in fantasy football. Like I said, in a game where the wide receiver room for Tampa is going to be full of new faces and, Brashad Perriman and Scotty Miller and, guys like that we're not really used to seeing. Cole Beasley, who just signed with them. I'm sure we'll see him get a little bit of work out there. I think the Bucs are going to be able to use Fournette really well. And I think us as fantasy managers should count on Fournette to be strong this week against a Green Bay Packers defense that just let David Montgomery rush for 122 yards rushing for 8.1 yards a carry, just at 122 yards on 15 carries, was one of the sole bright spots for the Bears in that game. But I am really excited for Leonard Fournette this week. I think you should be able to start him with confidence.
I think it's a good reminder to assure Leonard Fournette owners that, hey, he's done pretty well, honestly. He's averaging pretty well. It just isn't that big, strong. It's not flashy, as you said. It's not that flashy game that you want out of Lenny. But
if you add trips to the end zone onto those performances, they're definitely performances that we're talking about more. Versus absolutely. Not being able to find the end zone yet. But yeah, I'm with you. I agree.
And just as you said, I mean, this receiver room is going to be scarce. And gosh, I mean, he already had over 20 carries. Leonard Fournette did last week. So I fully expect to see that again. I expect that many touches on Sunday.
Yeah, especially against, like I said, this Packers defense who just let Montgomery run wild there. I think Fournette's going to be a really solid player. Wes, hit me with the stardom for this week.
Yeah, I'm going to say that if you're stuck on which tight end to start, now that you have Njoku on your bench because you didn't realize he was going to be incredible last night, I think you should start Dawson Knox. Despite the absolute dominance of Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen consistently distributes this ball evenly. 7 receivers caught a pass in week 1, and then 8 receivers caught a pass in week 2. He gets the ball around to a lot of people. Now, Stephon Diggs is on another level, but it's not – the offense doesn't just run through Diggs. It runs through Josh Allen. Now, Dawson Knox didn't see a lot against the Rams, but became more involved on Monday versus the Titans. He signed a big contract right before the season started, so he's meant to be integrated regularly. However, really the most important reason to start him is that through these first 2 weeks – the Dolphins have allowed the second most fantasy points to tight ends.
Yeah.
Most of that came from Mark Andrews because he had an incredible game. But the Dolphins defense has not faced a Stephon Diggs as a wide receiver yet. So if Gabe Davis is even going to play, let's say he's there. I mean, the deep threat is going to have to be the priority for Miami. And they're gonna have to respect every kind of passing game, which means that more opportunities are going to come to Dawson Knox, who already had a pretty good game last week. So with all this information combined, I think if you're stuck on which tight end to start, it's Dawson Knox for me.
I agree. He should be a great option for you guys this week if you do need to start a tight end. As a avid Dolphins fan that we are, Wes, I can assure anyone considering Dawson Knox that coverage linebackers have been a bit of a weakness for the Dolphins for many years. And we haven't really found a key guy to play, coverage in the middle of the field, in the shorter routes there. And so Dawson Knox should have a great opportunity if you do need a tight end to play this weekend. But I may have somebody else that you could play at tight end this week.
Oh, you do?
I may.
Well, let me
give you guys options.
Pray tell.
Just to give options here. My other start of the week is going to actually be Tyler Higbee, tight end for the Los Angeles Rams. He is going up against the Arizona Cardinals this week. Let me tell you something, Wes.
Okay.
Tyler Higbee has a 26.7% target share in the Los Angeles Rams offense. That's like just 5% less than Cooper Kupp. And everybody else on that team has like 12% target share or less.
Wowee.
Matthew Stafford loves him. Some boys out there who can just catch the football, and he's found that in Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee. I don't know what it is, but he is relying on Tyler Higbee this year, a guy that we didn't think necessarily would have that sort of opportunity, but with that 27% target share through these first 2 weeks, that's actually good for second amongst all tight ends, just behind Mark Andrews. He has a higher target share than Travis Kelce. and Kyle Pitts. Can you believe that? Isn't that crazy?
More than Kyle?
What?
What?
Wow. No, yeah. Matthew Stafford relies on him heavily, and against a Cardinals defense that is allowing 21.6 fantasy points per game to tight ends this year, Higbee looks to be a super solid option at the tight end spot if you do need somebody to play there. I think he could be a great option for you. Granted, the Cardinals have played the Chiefs and the Raiders. So those tight ends have been Travis Kelce and Darren Waller. So
right,
superstar tight ends, but still a tight end getting a 27% target share in this Rams offense. Definitely somebody worth taking a look at if you do need a tight end this week.
That's a crazy cool stat. I didn't know this about Tyler Higbee because when you watch, I mean, you see Higbee get catches, but you're watching Cooper Kupp.
Right.
He's the captain of that offense. He is in command. So that's really great. I mean, between the two, Dawson Knox and Tyler Higbee, I don't know who I think would do better. That's actually awesome. I think those are two excellent choices. Higbee, that's great. I love it.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. Wes, give me your second stardom for this week.
Yeah, I'm going to say that I think you can start Tyler Lockett. I think you can go for it. Now, when I did a little math and I said DK Metcalf is going to be a bust, as it looks so far, it's planning out that way. Now, it's only 2 weeks in, but math would also tell me, I think I mentioned it maybe a few episodes ago, maybe last Thursday night, about Mike Williams. I've dropped this stat that wide receivers that see 5 or fewer targets in week 1 have a 1.4% chance to be in the top 15.
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett is that 1.4% twice. Wow. He is the one receiver that wasn't expected to be a top 15. He's done it twice where he saw 4 targets in 2 different seasons in week 1 and still ended up at top 15. So this is more of an advocate of like, hey, don't give up on him. But I want to just say that they're playing the Falcons, who have given up the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers. He's coming off a good game. DK's not coming off a great game. You only have to start Tyler Lockett in your flex. So you're not having to risk necessarily a locked-in position. But I want to advocate that Tyler Lockett is still going to be – he can still be a great fantasy option for you. So that being said, at least don't drop him. But I think he'll have a great week 3.
Wow, that's really interesting that he has done that twice. That he's finished in the top 15 after getting 4 or fewer targets in the week 1 of that season.
Which he did this year. Again,
did he have 4?
I think he had 4 targets in week 1 this year. So
4 targets in week 1. He jumped to 11 targets in week 2. 11 targets in week 2. 9 catches for 107 yards. There's not much to complain about there. I will say I did a little thinking about this here stat of yours, Wes. This bona fide stat.
Yeah.
The numbers can be the numbers. I don't know if I want to press. It was just something I thought about. I was like, okay. Well, what's the sample size here? Because if we're talking about receivers that got less than 4 targets, well, yeah. Laviska Shenault didn't get 4 targets, and I don't think I'm thinking he's going to finish in the top 15 at all. So is he counted in this percentage, or that's what I'm wondering? Is that right? I had a thought about it. It's still a fantastic stat. It still is a very good mark to look at and consider whenever you're looking at guys that you need to think about. But that was something I was just like, I wonder who is included there. Because
that's a fair point. I will retort, because I decided I wanted 2 percentages. 1 for every wide receiver that has 5 or fewer targets, and 2 looking at the top 15 from the last 10 years. So that is, of the top 15, 9%. 9% of those that finish in the top 15 start week 1 with 5 or fewer targets.
Okay, so like pretty much one for every 15, 1.5 for every
it's
15. I don't know if
it's around there. It's around there.
Around something along those lines. Okay.
So,
but still, okay, great.
Yeah. And for the receiver, the good receivers right now that started week 1, Gabe Davis had less than 5. Jalen Waddle had less than 5.
Yeah.
Rashad Bateman had less than 5. Tyler Lockett. If I'm going to pick one of those, of course it's going to be Jalen Waddle because he's got like a 40-point head start on everyone.
Right.
But essentially the top 15 are the bona fide receivers that we already know are great.
Top of the top.
Like the only unique one was Justin Jefferson because he was a rookie and we didn't know who he's going to be yet. So it's just adding to the math for some of the secondary receivers. Speaking of which, I'm taking up time, but I wanted to say I talked about selling Rashad Bateman last time, who I just said had less than 5 targets. I used him to get Justin Jefferson 2 days ago. So he's hot. If you're thinking you want to get someone great, if you've got Rashad Bateman, don't be afraid to give him up because it
wasn't a 1-for-1, by the way.
It wasn't that. I gave up Aaron Jones, so it was kind of fair. I have Dalvin Jones Cook and Javonte Williams.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of capital you can get. So, okay, enough about me. Let's
crazy. Let's jump over to some guys that I think we both think you just need to listen. You need to just listen and leave them on the bench because they're not going to work out for you.
Trust us. We've never been wrong.
We've never been wrong at all. Pat Fryermuth was a beast on Thursday night.
6 points? Solid.
6 points, baby. Let's go. 20.5 yards per catch. Let's go. Come on. Anyways, my first sit for the week is going to be Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Packers have had they've been a very strange team to watch play football this season with the loss of Devontae Adams. It's like I don't even know who the stars of this team are. You think it's probably the running backs, but it's also like, but Aaron Rodgers is still one of the best quarterbacks to play the game. He just has donuts as wide receivers who aren't doing anything. So it's like, I don't really know what to say here. But Aaron Rodgers combined over weeks 1 and 2 has only had 20.06 fantasy points. That's combined this first 2 weeks. It's not great. It's not great if you didn't know. That's not a great total to have. And for a guy who is going up against a Bucs defense who has collectively allowed 14.7 fantasy points to quarterbacks over the first 2 weeks, it's not a great look for Aaron Rodgers this week. I don't think he should be in your lineups. I think he should be on your bench, and I think you can definitely be looking elsewhere. Guys like Kirk Cousins, guys like potentially Carson Wentz, even guys like, I don't know, guys like Tua, take a shot on Tua if he's there. I would be looking somewhere else because it's not looking good for Aaron Rodgers this week.
I was thinking of some stats while you were saying about how he has combined 20 points.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow had 4 turnovers in week 1. Is that
6.
correct?
6,
something like that.
I believe he had 5 picks and a fumble.
He still finished with 18 points. In week 1.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just for comparison. Realize how rough Aaron Rodgers fantasy is. Yeah.
Oof.
Big oof.
Big oof.
And the most frustrating thing is that I think people feel like they have to hold on to him.
You don't.
Because it's Aaron Rodgers. And it's very, very peculiar to hear guys I'm in leagues with who drafted Aaron Rodgers like, I'm dropping him. And it's like, that's Aaron Rodgers. But when you look at the stats, I don't know if it's drop worthy yet, but maybe it is. But I'm not starting him. I wouldn't start him.
I'm not starting him. Yeah.
I'm not starting him.
It's rough. It is rough.
It's incredible. I mean, just one more stat. I mean, he averaged 20 points a game last season.
Yeah, and he's barely broken that over the first 2 weeks combined. So not looking good for
unfortunately, I understand.
Aaron.
No.
Wes, tell me who you're sitting this week.
I'm doubling down. I'm not going to start Alan Lazard. Not this week, at least.
Yeah.
Look, obviously, just say he has an ankle injury. So if he doesn't play, of course, don't start him. But
hot take.
If he does play, I still wouldn't start him. And it has nothing to do with the injury if he does play. There's this perception right now that when Alan Lazard is healthy, that he's going to be this number one wide receiver and that he can help get this passing game going. And let's just wait until that actually happens, because right now, this is this is just using different name from Aaron Rodgers to Alan Lazard about the Packers offense situation, because Lazard only found his footing at the end of last season. The last 5 games, he averaged 16.5 points, which is awesome. And that's including a 4-point game. So if you take that out, I mean, he's averaging huge points. Before that, last season, the first 10 games he played, he averaged 5.9 points. So he wasn't this extremely well-used receiver in fantasy. And if you're thinking, well, that's because Davante Adams was there, but now Davante Adams is gone, maybe this will help. Davante Adams was the most double-teamed wide receiver last season. And Davante Adams did Davante Adams things. Alan Lazard is not Davante Adams. No one needs to double-team anyone in the Packers receivers room. On top of this, they're playing the Bucs, as you said. And it's just like, they're not scared. No. I mean, they have so many turnovers already. It's just, let's wait. This is just my point. Let's just wait until Alan Lazard actually proves himself to be a clear number one receiver in Green Bay before you start him, because it's probably going to be about 5-6 points. And he got a touchdown last time, but I'm not banking on that again.
No. Yeah, I mean, neither. He had 2 catches last week, and one of them was for a touchdown, and the other one was for like 6 yards. So it was not looking great for Alan Lazard. I agree with you there, Wes. I am not looking to start him in any of my leagues. Another guy I'm not looking to start. Fair enough. Another guy I'm not looking to start is going to be, listen, I might make some people mad here. I'm not starting Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Really?
I'm not doing it. I'm not starting Clyde Edwards-Helaire, running back for the Kansas City Chiefs against the Indianapolis Colts. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has started out far better than I think anyone thought he would be in fantasy football this season. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire started out better in fantasy football this season than Clyde Edwards-Helaire thought he would start out in fantasy football this season.
Probably true.
He's RB5 right now, and part of that contributes to what we were saying earlier, that these running backs are so bad this year so far. These guys that we're taking early are just doing terrible, and these other guys are getting the opportunities. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the RB5 on the fantasy football season so far, while only having touched the ball 22 times in the first 2 weeks. Nick Chubb had more than that on Thursday night, like himself. Like, he touched the ball more on Thursday night himself than Clyde Edwards-Helaire has over these first 8 quarters of football this season. He hasn't dropped a pass yet. He's at 100% catch rate, and I don't think that continues either. He's currently rushing for 7.7 yards per carry. I just think it's too unrealistic to say that he is going to continue this sort of output when he's going up, especially this week, against a Colts defense that's allowing just 2.8 yards per carry, the second best rush defense in the league this year so far. I expect the hype train to die out on Clyde Edwards-Helaire this week against the Indianapolis Colts after what's been, a beautiful 2-week honeymoon phase. It's been awesome. We've all been, oh my gosh, it's crazy. I don't think he is going to do what you are hoping he'll do this week against the Indianapolis Colts. He's getting so few touches. It's kind of ridiculous, but that is why he is another sit him this week for me in fantasy football.
Question, Noah.
Sure.
Are you calling this a fluke? Because I wonder how far is it's like sell him while he's hot, or are you just saying week 3?
So I think you should be trying to sell Clyde right now.
Yeah. Okay.
100%. It's especially, I think, going to die down this week in week 3. But as I said, the efficiency on the little amount of touches he's getting is absurd.
Sure. That is fair.
I use the same logic.
Yards a carry?
7.7 yards per carry. He's touched the ball 22 times. He's touched the football 22 times in 8 quarters of football, and he is the RB5 on 22 times touching the football. Like that. That's absurd. And I use the same logic with Jahan Dotson. He's caught a touchdown on 44% of his catches this season. Sell the man while he's hot. That's not a sustainable stat line. And it's gonna keep on going up and down, up and down, up and down for you. He'll probably still do well. He'll probably finish inside like the top 15, top 20 this year if they do rely on him and he is, efficient and stuff like that. But for a guy who's getting so few touches, I really think you need to reconsider if you really believe that Clyde Edwards-Helaire keeps up this efficiency with the touches he gets. If he keeps on catching every pass thrown his way, if he keeps on getting 7.7 yards per carry, I really think you need to reconsider whether or not you think this is going to continue, or if it's someone you should try selling hot for or selling high right now for somebody like Zeke, or like if your Dalvin Cook owner is getting, nervous about what's going on, or, if your James Conner owner is getting nervous about what's going on or something like that. I really think the hype train dies down for Clyde, and I think it's going to mellow out and kind of not necessarily flatline, but it's gonna drop a lot lower just because it's not sustainable.
Okay, you don't have to say this, but I want to know: are you going to mark your words on that, or is this only a hunch?
I don't know which one to mark my words on. Let's set a benchmark here. What should I mark my words on? That Clyde Edwards-Helaire doesn't hit he falls out of. I'll say this.
Okay.
I'll say this. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire will have, let's say, I'm going to say he'll only finish inside the top 10 of fantasy football running backs 3 more times this season.
Whoa.
I think he will only finish inside the top 10 a total of 5 times this season. Mark my words.
Oh my gosh. So you're saying we've already gotten 2 of the 5?
I am, yeah.
Whoa. Yeah, I love this.
Do it. We've seen the usage of Jerick McKinnon go up a little bit. We've seen, I know Pacheco hasn't been lights out, and obviously he isn't doing anything crazy, but in garbage time, Pacheco gets to work. I mark my words. Clyde Edwards-Helaire will only finish inside the top 10 of fantasy football running backs on a weekly basis 3 more times this entire season.
That is awesome. I love it.
Mark him.
I can't wait. Oh, I will.
Wes,
I'll be marking
give me your last sit for the week before we jump into studs and duds.
Yeah, my last sit, I come to grieve and mourn with all the other Travis Etienne owners. Oh. I think it's time. Listen, let me just say it. I'm throwing in the towel. It's not him. It's not going to be Etienne, okay? It's James Robinson's backfield, and we know it.
I'm so sad about this.
Look, it's just in the realm of fantasy football, it's James Robinson, and it's not as close as it even seems, okay? Robinson has seen 79 snaps. Etienne has seen 62 snaps. Robinson has 34 carries. Etienne has 13. Robinson has 130 yards rushing. Etienne is 67. Now, okay, check it. Etienne has more targets and more receiving yards. But Robinson is the one. Yeah, pitches too. Robinson is the one that got the receiving touchdown.
Yeah.
On top of this, James Robinson has 3 rushing touchdowns, and he's tied for second most rushing touchdowns in the league right now, behind Nick Chubb. Plain and simple, Travis Etienne is just not going to be as productive as James Robinson right now. And he may be more productive in the passing game. That may be the perception, but Christian Kirk is clearly the top priority. And then after him, it's Evan Ingram. And so, listen, I'm not saying trade him away just yet. Someone gets hurt on your team, you got someone that can do something. But, I'd rather start someone that has a much higher ceiling or a much bigger boom potential than settling for another 8 points again. So I'm not starting Travis Etienne.
That's sad.
I know.
I really wish that wasn't the case, but I agree with you completely. I'm sending out feelers to the James Robinson owners in my league because I'm definitely like hey, how you feeling on that guy, by the way? Because he's pretty good. So it's definitely been disappointing to watch, what we thought was going to be just an explosion from Travis Etienne. I've had him as a top 12 running back this season, and it really just hasn't been, and I wish it was. But I think there are better days ahead for Travis Etienne. I think he'll have his big weeks and stuff like that, but I think they're going to come fairly scarce as far as things go there. It's a bummer. It's definitely a bummer here. Let us move on real quick, Wes. Let's close out the show with studs and duds. Let's start out with your stud for week 3, Wes. Who is your stud of the week?
With complete confidence, my week 3 stud is going to be Deebo Samuel.
Ooh.
Jimmy G is back.
Uh-oh.
During the offseason and throughout training camp, reports continue to say that Deebo and Trey Lance, they weren't building chemistry that well. In fact, we were hearing that Brandon Ayuk was becoming the best pure wide receiver on that team because of how good the chemistry was. And the first 2 weeks, it's been kind of iffy for Deebo. He's got a touchdown, getting good points, but it's not the Deebo you drafted early second round until now because Jimmy Garoppolo is under center. And we know what Deebo Samuel does with Jimmy G. He's projected 17.7 points. I think he's still going to do better than that. Watch him. Watch him go off. He'll be great. Deebo Samuel, to the moon, baby. To the moon, baby. Week 3 stud.
To the moon. I love it.
My shot.
I love it. Jimmy G is back. It was funny. Kyle Shanahan was talking post-game to the press, to the media. And they said, Kyle, you got to see Jimmy out there. How'd you feel? And he said, looked good, still handsome. Boy, he is. He's a handsome fella.
He is.
And he will give Deebo Samuel a handsome production this week in fantasy football. I agree. I think
you're the best podcast host.
No, thanks, dude. No, you.
Stop it.
Oh, listening.
Okay. Stop.
All right, stop. All right, Wes, stop.
Stop. Okay.
Okay. All right. Stop. Okay.
No smiling.
No smiles are fun in this show. No, I agree though. I think it's going to be a great week. I think, especially, I've heard rumblings that George Kittle might be back, so there may be a little bit of distraction there. And again, it should be a high-powered game. I believe it is. They're playing the Broncos this week. Should be high-scoring offenses. I'm excited for it. I think it should be great. I love Deebo Samuel as your stud of the week.
Thank you.
Let me tell you a little bit about my stud of the week, though, Wes.
Please do. Please.
My stud of the week is a guy we talked about earlier who apparently his coach has said we need to get him more involved. So I'm believing Sir Kevin O'Connell when he says that we need to get Dalvin Cook more involved. My stud of the week is Minnesota Vikings running back Dalvin Cook.
Yes.
Against the Detroit Lions. He's projected 18.2 fantasy points this week. Listen, Dalvin hasn't started the year super hot. He's averaging 10.7 fantasy points. That's not what you're hoping for from your first-round guy. But I believe that ends this week. The Vikings offense just got absolutely smacked by the Eagles. And that was a game where Cook saw his opportunities being rushes plus targets, so opportunities to have the football in his hands. That dropped from 25 opportunities in week 1 to just 12 opportunities in week 2. Got cut in half. Like we said, Kevin O'Connell knows he needs to get his top running back involved in the game plan in order to win. We saw a great week 1 from them, not a great week 2. We know what needs to happen. and that needs to be Dalvin Cook getting the football. Here's a good thing to remind all you Dalvin Cook owners, myself included. I own Dalvin Cook.
Myself included as well.
He's got 5 or more targets in each game so far this season. He is involved in the passing game. They are looking to get him the ball however they can. 5 or more targets. He's got 11 targets on the year so far, 5 in week 1, 6 in week 2. That's good for 6th in terms of ranking amongst running backs as far as targets go. He is still in a great opportunity and a great space to get the football and score you fantasy points. He's part of the passing game plan without a doubt. And this week he takes on the Detroit Lions defense, who have given up 62.1 fantasy points to the running back position through 2 weeks. Oh boy. And it's not just like star running backs. 4 different rushers scored on the Eagles against that Lions defense in week 1. One of them was Jalen Hurts, but still 3 different running backs, Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, and Boston Scott all scored. The Detroit Lions know how to do some things very well. And one of the things they know how to do very well is to let fantasy football running backs destroy them. They're really good at that. So that is why Dalvin Cook is going to be my stud of week 3, 18.2 fantasy point projection. I'm going to call my shot and say he probably goes over 26.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to get legit with it. I'm going to get specific. I'm going to say he goes over 26 fantasy points this week. I think it's going to be a great week from Dalvin Cook.
That is incredible.
Let's move over here though, Wes.
Yeah.
Because we're going to talk about some people that are going to disappoint you.
Yeah.
You got them in your lineup. Wes, who's your dud for week 3?
I'm saying, I don't know why I'm so against this Green Bay Bucks game. I didn't mean to, but I'm saying my dud is going to be Aaron Jones. Now, This is more of a, hey, Aaron Jones will probably get that 13-point projection instead of the 30 points that he got last week because they're playing a really good defense, instead of he's going to suck. He's going to get negative points and 6 fumbles.
He's going to be so bad.
Yeah, he's going to be terrible. He's going to run in the back of the end zone. No, this is like, honestly,
safety. Yeah.
Right. Honestly, Aaron Jones will get those 13 points, okay? It comes down to this. We've already been harping about it all episode, but Aaron Jones is the only weapon in this Packers offense. I mean, A.J. Dillon is there, but what Aaron Jones did on Sunday night against the Bears, that is all the Bucs really have to worry about. Really, it just comes down to they just have to stop the run, and they will, because that's what they're good at. And I talked about it before week 1 with Ezekiel Elliott. I was like, listen, this is a good rush defense still. If people have been watching the Buccaneers play, their offense is not fun to watch, but their defense does their job. And the defense knows how to keep things in check with all game long against the Cowboys. And they suddenly flipped a switch. I think the switch was a massive center field brawl with Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah.
And then a pick 6, and then it's gone. So this Bucs defense for me is unfortunately the reason I think Aaron Jones really is going to get that 13, that low teens scoring, maybe even 10 to 15 points, just because it's a, hey, he's still worth having, even though he had 30 points last week and now he may have like a little more than 10. Just, he's not going to do that great. That's my dud for week 3.
I can definitely see it happening. You know, this Bucs defense has really shut down all the running backs they've seen so far. Ezekiel Elliott, the quartet of Saints running backs, whoever was running the ball because Alvin Kamara was out. But yeah, that front 7 is scary. And when they play teams, when we look at it, when they play teams who don't have the, very much of a, wide open wide receiver threat, we look at the Cowboys game. Cowboys, the Bucs defense didn't need to be scared because they knew that the Cowboys weren't stretching the field and they weren't doing things like that. That front 7 was just down Dak Prescott's and Ezekiel Elliott's throats the whole game, demolishing that O-line. I definitely think you are onto something here. Aaron Jones managers probably need to temper their expectations for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how we ended up doing this, but we're talking about this Bucs Packers game a lot, which is funny because when the schedule came out, everyone was like, "Oh yes,
Could be the
Brady
last time
versus
they play each
Rodgers,
other.
the last time. Oh, what a great final brawl. Oh, this is going to be awesome. And now it's like it's
boring game.
It's the most boring game of the week, dude. It's going to be so boring to watch. And I hope we're all, because a lot of the fantasy football community are all really kind of on the same page here about how this game is really going to go. I hope we're all wrong and we get a game for the ages. And Randall Cobb has 300 receiving yards, and Sammy Watkins has 5 touchdowns from the 1 yard line.
Yeah, I
hope it's incredible. I hope Brashad Perriman breaks the all-time receiving record in one game. I hope it's fantastic. I'm telling you now, it won't be. My dud for the week is Tom Brady, quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It pains me to say this because I am such a big Brady believer for fantasy football, but it has not been good. Like Dalvin Cook, Tom Brady hasn't started all too hot, but unfortunately, unlike Dalvin Cook, it doesn't stop here. He hasn't, like Aaron Rodgers, he hasn't broken that 20-point mark in combined fantasy points for the first 2 weeks. Not very GOAT-like Thomas Brady-thin. Okay. I don't know why things are happening this way. Might be the wide receivers. Excuse me. Might be the wide receivers. Might be, them wanting to run the ball more. Might be Todd Bowles coaching. I'm not sure what's going on. But it's looking like he's going to be, obviously, without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin, without Julio Jones, against this Packers defense who allowed just 13.9 fantasy points on average to quarterbacks this season. I own Tom Brady. Shocker, I know. I've talked about him a lot. I own Tom Brady. I am benching Tom Brady for Kirk Cousins this week. There are better days ahead for Tom, but this week is not going to be one to remember for the GOAT. And so that is why Tom Brady is my dud for the week.
I want to close out the show with one reminder for the audience about how Noah and I commit to honesty, and we are seeking to give you the best advice that we can in an unbiased and neutral way. I want you to know how much Noah really loved Tom Brady for this season.
Yeah.
When we were getting ready to record this podcast, we were getting the fine details worked out. I was making dinner and Noah unprompted FaceTimed me. And I was like, okay. And I picked up the phone. I was like, hey, Noah, what's up? And he has his hand on his forehead and he looks exasperated. He is like worried.
I was like, why is Tom away from camp?
It just says, what if Brady retires, dude? You called me during dinner to tell me this. He's like, I don't have another quarterback in mind. And this is how much Noah invested in Tom Brady. So when you hear him say Brady's not going to be good, it's not some trick. It's not some trick that Noah's be like, haha, see, and now I get Brady from your team. Like, no, he is. This is the fact right now. 2022 is not Brady's strong suit for fantasy. I can't wait to talk about this Bucs-Packers game because this is apparently our lowest scoring fantasy game for week 3.
Yeah, I agree. We want to give you guys the best insight that we can here on Fourth and Troll Fantasy. And in doing that, sometimes, we've
never been wrong.
There's sometimes we just got to let our dreams die. And I still believe in Tom Brady, but I'm willing to overlook he's the GOAT. Of course, you got to start him to recognize this isn't going to be a good game. This is not going to be a good matchup. And I think we really need to consider just tempering our expectations and looking elsewhere for week 3 at the quarterback position for fantasy football. That is going to be all the time that we do have for this episode. Wherever you are listening, we'd appreciate it if you give this episode 5 stars and write something funny in the review so we can give you a shout out next time. We're on social media everywhere at Fourth and Troll and at Fourth and Troll Fantasy on Facebook. Look out for our mascot, Teddy the Troll, and make him smile by giving us a follow and joining us next time every Tuesday and Friday. I'm Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been Fourth and Troll Fantasy.